In this knowledge transfer session, we are going to discuss configuring the components of a lifecycle event. We will be configuring a lifecycle event record, activity sets, activities, along with configuring an HR service to run a lifecycle event. Let's begin by activating the Lifecycle Event plugin. Click All to get to the application navigator. Type Plugins in the search, then click the module link. Type Lifecycle Events in the search. I will be installing the Enterprise version. I will click the link, then click Install. After the install is complete, let's log off, then back in. Now that the plugin is activated, we will configure our lifecycle event. In the application navigator, you'll type Manage Lifecycle Events. Then click on the module link. Let's click New to configure a new lifecycle event. We can give our lifecycle event a title, then a description. We can click Display Activity Sets to Subject Person. This displays the lifecycle event activity set timeline on the HR ticket page for the subject person. For the timeline to display, the HR service needs to be configured to Showcase to Subject Person. The field in the Employee View Sort Activities by allows you to set the sort of the lifecycle event activities. They can be sorted either by the due date or by the display order. You can select the event type. If selecting onboarding, you will want the Display Activity Sets to Subject Person checkbox checked. Let's click Save. Next, we'll configure the activity set for this lifecycle event. We can either click Activity Sets or we can click Next. I will be editing this first activity set. We can click here. Activity sets are the container that contains the activities. They are the different stages of the lifecycle event. We'll give a title. Display title is auto-populated. This is what is displayed to the employee when viewing the lifecycle event timeline. Add a description. Active determines if the activity set is activated. Display order is how the activity set appears on the lifecycle event builder. With Display to Opened For, you can set whether the activity set is shown to the Opened For person. Audience is the specific population of users that is the target of this activity set. The trigger type is the condition that triggers this activity set. Immediate means that the activity set is triggered when the lifecycle event is created. When date is selected, we can set the trigger table. This is the table in which the date field for this trigger is located. Trigger field is the date field which will be used to trigger this activity set. When Ignore Empty Date is checked, then the activity set will not trigger if the date field has no value. Date Offset Type allows you to select when the trigger should occur, either before, after, or on the date of the trigger field. When selecting None, the activity set will trigger on the trigger field date. If we select either before or after, we are presented with Date Offset Units. This gives us the option of days, weeks, or months before or after the trigger field date. Date Offset Quantity is the amount of the date offset units. If we select our trigger type to be Other Activity Sets, this means that this activity set triggers upon the completion of all activities of a separate activity set. The field Activity Set Dependencies allows you to choose activity sets whose completion this activity set is dependent upon to be triggered. The trigger type Advanced allows us to create a script to trigger this activity set. The script must return a true value to trigger the activity set. The trigger type Condition allows you to define a condition for triggering this activity set. Condition table is the table the condition will act upon. As a note, you can use the condition builder to trigger based on a time frame before or after a date. However, it is better practice to use the date trigger type. Finally, the trigger type Combination allows us to set the trigger for this activity set, dependent upon a number of activity set trigger types. The combination type option AND requires all activity triggers to be met for this activity set to trigger. The OR option requires that any one of the activity triggers to be met for this activity set to trigger. Now that our activity set has been configured, we'll save it. Next, you'll configure an activity. Here in the Lifecycle Event Builder, under the Activity Set tab, you'll click Add Activity to create an activity within your activity set. Here you'll add a title, then a description. The owning group is the group that can create, update, or delete an activity. Here you are setting the owning group associated with the activity. Audience is the specific population of users that are the target of this activity. There are several different activity types to choose. We'll go over approval, employee, fulfiller, notification, flow, content, and activity container. For the approval type is for approvals. You are able to set an approval group or set of groups and/or users or set of users. Here you can choose the approval to come from a field on the case. On the Approval Options tab, you can choose the Wait For, either anyone to approve, everyone to approve, or the first response from anyone determines the state of the approval, either approve or reject. You can choose what happens on rejection of the approval. Either allow resubmit of approvals. In this case, the assigned person on the case will get a message on the case to resubmit the approval request, which resets the approval. Or close incomplete the task. With missing any approver, your options are select replacements. In this case, the assigned person will receive a message with a link to select another approver, skip missing, in other words, skip that approver, or change the state to close incomplete. For missing all approvers, your options are select replacements or close incomplete the task or case. When you select the activity type, employee, or fulfiller, you are given the field Employee Activity or Fulfiller Activity. When Employee is the activity type, out of the box you are only given the HR task as the employee activity. HR Template is the HR task template for the employee task. The Wait for Generated Task to Complete option is to wait for the task to complete before closing the activity. It only appears when the task type for the template is HR Service, Submit Catalog Item, or Submit Order Guide. You'll now save the activity. Since our HR task template has a task type of HR Service, we are given the tab Activity Field Mappings. In this tab, we are able to map fields from the Lifecycle event to variables on the activity. You'll click New. The activity field is the activity this mapping is associated with. Map from Table is the table from which the fields are mapped. When a field is selected for Map From, the Map From field allows you to select a field on the Map From table. However, Custom Text allows you to customize the value to be mapped. Mapped to Variable is the variable that the Map From field or custom text will be mapped. When Fulfiller is the activity type, out of the box, you are given the following options for the Fulfiller activity. Incident. This allows you to create an incident using a template. HR Service allows you to submit an HR service. You will note that when you save the form, the tab Activity Field Mappings displays with field mappings pre-populated. Catalog Item allows you to choose the catalog item to submit. HR Task, which is similar to HR Task under the employee activity type. And Automated Order Guide. This allows you to submit an order guide. When the activity type, notification, is selected, you are given the field Email Template to select an email template. The From field allows you to provide the name of the sender. In the Recipients tab, you can add Recipient Users. These are the users to receive the notification. Recipient Groups are the groups to receive the notification. Users/groups on case. These are either users or groups from the case to receive the notification. When the activity type is Flow, you are given the Flow field, which allows you to select a subflow. After the activity is saved, you are given the tab Activity Field Mappings. Here you can map fields from your Lifecycle event to the inputs for the subflow. When the activity type is Content, you are given the Template field. With the Template field, you will select a schedule content template for this activity. The tab Content Availability allows you to set the duration for how long the content will be available. You are able to set the date offset units and the date offset quantity. The activity type, Activity Container, is a container for other activities. You will need to first save the form. Then you are given the Member Activities tab. This tab allows you to create new activities that will be contained in your activity container. Now that your Lifecycle event is configured along with your activity sets and activities, you can configure an HR service that will run your Lifecycle event. First, let's go to the HR Service Configuration module. Here in the HR Service, you'll set the fulfillment type to Lifecycle event. Then set the Lifecycle event type to the Lifecycle event we created.